Welcome to Garden Wise Adventures. My name is Malie, and today I wanted to show you what I've done with my garden beds. The last video I showed you, I had put in one garden bed, and now I have done the second one. Finished the irrigation in the first, and today we're going to go over how I did that and put the irrigation in this second one. So let me show you what the garden beds look like. So if we stand back, here's the new garden bed that I just put in. And here's the one that I finished last time. And right in the center is going to be something eventually, but right now we're growing squash. So let me show you over here. Now I did put, the frame for my cold frame in here to see if it fits. It does not fit, so all I need to do is just go and cut it down a little bit. But as you can see, I have 4 lines of drip irrigation in here. This is attached to a zone that all my garden beds are attached to. Now I think what I'd like to do possibly in the, maybe a little bit later, is put a shutoff valve either on each of these beds or right here so I can shut off this entire area, or maybe I'll do both. Maybe I'll do a shutoff valve here so that I can turn off the irrigation to this area entirely and put a shutoff valve on each bed. That way, if I'm not going to be using these beds, I don't have to water them. So today we're going to go and finish the irrigation in this bed. Then I think my backyard area will be mostly done, and I'm really excited. Okay, so what we have here are the supplies that I'm going to use. Now I know I've been repeating this several times, but just in case this is the first video that someone has watched, let me show you where this is connected. Now I can't open it because I have my big pile of dirt ready to rebuild this bed right here. But inside this valve box we have a bunch of different pipes, and all of them are drip. So you have to have a drip valve that has a pressure reducer and a filter on it for each valve, and I have 4 of them in there. One of them is for the garden beds. We trenched, you can see the trench going all the way into my backyard. And over here we used PVC pipe that we buried pretty deep. And then we attached, there's attachments that you can connect a drip tube to the PVC pipe. So we used that and popped one of them up here. You can't see it, but it's down there. And I attached the garden beds that are down there to this line. Then we have a second one that's attached to the same PVC pipe for the garden beds in the same zone. It came up over here. I think you could see it right there. I need to do a better job of burying it. But there's a pipe right there that goes all the way up the hill and is attached to each one of these garden beds. Now I've had the irrigation in these garden beds for about 15 years, ever since I moved here. This is one of the first things that I built. And I had a guy come in and professionally install these, and I've loved how they've worked. So I'm doing the same thing, except for I'm using 4 lines rather than 3. The 3 lines are just not quite enough, especially when you first replace the soil in a bed. Once the soil has aged a little bit, it seems to hold water a little bit better, but I think the 3 lines were just not quite enough. So first I wanted to show you the supplies that I am using. So I'm going to cut, unbury this pipe just a little bit. I'm going to cut it to the same height as the bricks. And then I'm going to use these connectors. This is the drip pipe right here. This has holes in it. I think it's every 12 inches on this one. And this is a blank pipe. Now I'm using this connector because this area right here can swing. It's not on too tight, although it's too tight for one hand. It's not too tight to twist back and forth so that we can lay the pipe down exactly the way we want it. So let me show you how I'm going to put all this together. So the first thing that I'm going to do is excavate a little bit around this pipe, take it down a little bit. And it's not the best thing to use, but I always use these to cut my poly pipe. Cut it to about here. It's got water in it because it watered this morning. Dump some of that water out. This part right here is going to go into the pipe that exists, and everything's going to connect to this one. Then I can lay that flat. Or we can point it up if I want to swing the entire irrigation system out of the bed when I'm fixing beds. Now this is always the hardest part for me because I have weak hands, but we have to shove this into the pipe. There we go, it's that easy. So now we have an area where we can connect another short pipe. I'm going to reuse this one. But we've just got to connect a short pipe so we can have another connection on that. We don't need it to be very long. And you definitely do not want dirt in the pipes because drip systems do clog very easily. So we're going to get this so that I can shove it on. So that's where we can connect the irrigation system, right there. Now I've got to decide which connector to use. Last time, on the last bed, I used the 4-way connector and used this to connect one of the lines. And I think I'll probably have to do that now because I only have 3 of the T connectors left. I thought I had more, but I only have 3 left. Oh no, actually I have 4, so let's see if that would work. Okay, so the first connector that I'm going to use is going to be this 4-way connector. And one of these connectors are going to be to run one of the lines down the bed. And I'll show you what I'm going to do with the rest of them. So now comes the fun part again. We've got to connect this. Now I did learn one trick for this. You know, I'm not going to do it today, but if you cannot get the connectors into the poly pipe, what you can do is bring out a jar of hot water and soak the end of the pipe in the hot water, and it only takes like 10 seconds and then it's soft enough to shove one of these in easily. But I'm just going to have to deal with it the way it is right now. Okay, so now we've got that on. And what's nice about this is we can swing this pipe, because it's flexible, anywhere where we want it, and twist this part right here so it can face any way you want it, and then we've got a great connection. So now we're going to build the frame at the beginning here. So the first thing I'm going to use is going to be this blank pipe. You don't have to use the blank pipe, but for some reason I like it to be blank pipe at the beginning and at the end to connect everything to. So we're going to put the blank pipe here and connect it to this one. I'm not going to cut it yet so I don't waste pipe. I'm going to cut it when I know the length that I need. Okay, so there is the first one. Now I'm going to twist it so it's pointing the other way. Okay, so I'm going to see where I'm going to have the second line, and then put in one of these corner connectors. But first I'm going to twist this pipe so that it's facing the way that I want it. That fits the bed a little bit better. There, so that's facing the way I want it. We can just twist everything so it fits nicely. We're going to use staples to straighten out these pipes, because they are curved a little bit. But that's the way it looks. So let's continue on. Okay, now we have it the length that I want it. I'm going to cut it in half again. Actually, I'm going to put the corner connector on because it's easier when it's all attached. So now we're going to cut it in half. Kind of measure where I want it. And then use one of these T connectors. And then one on this side. Okay, now once we staple this down, this should work really well. Let me get you in a little bit closer so you can see what it looks like. So we have the corner connector there. We have my valve that can swing any direction that you want it to. 4-way connector, 3-way connector, and another corner one there hiding up underneath. So now let's connect to the drip line. That goes a little bit easier. Well, it's at the end of the day of the next day, and I finally have my bed finished. Now, I finished it late last night, so I wasn't able to film the rest of what I did. But let me show you what it looks like now. As you can see, I've got some supports in here and a couple of plants. The supports are for cucumbers that I'm going to plant in here shortly. But I do have my 4 drip lines in. Now, this will make for more even watering than the 3 lines that I have up at the top of my hill. And I also planted some red roselle, and I think I may do a video on this a little bit later once I see if they survive. This is the first time I've planted red roselle, but if they survive, they're supposed to get quite large. So we have this drip bed finished, and let me kind of go over quickly what else I've done for drip lines in the yard. Now it stretches all the way along here, is buried along next to the house, and comes out by the fence. And I'm going to use this line to water any fruit trees that I put back here. We also are going to water through here. Now I did plant a bush cherry. It did not survive, so I replaced that with an artichoke. Now that's going to only be watered twice a week, so I may need to hand water that a little bit. This is finished. I'll do a video about this in a little while. And you can see all the drip lines that I've laid out here for the food forest. Now all the drip lines that are showing right now are going to be buried. I just wanted to keep them out so that I can see how they worked and also show you on the video what everything looks like. And once I'm happy with the way everything is put together, then I will bury these. I won't bury them in the dirt. I will just bury them under the mulch so it looks better and to keep the water from evaporating so fast. Last thing that I did is this line's attached to our garden zone, goes up in here. Like I showed you earlier, it's a trap. Oh, I can't see it here. And like I showed you earlier, it's attached to my drip lines in this bed. And what I also did is I have my temporary squash and artichokes planted in here. And I didn't want to run a full grid of drip line through here. So what I did is I attached a blank 1/4 inch line to a perforated 1/4 inch drip line. And I'm using that around each plant. And it seems to work really well. These are all watered 3 times a week. And if they start looking stressed, then I can hit them with a little bit of hand water. Now the other reason I love having these garden beds down here is because of how close they are to my hose. The garden bed's up at the top of the hill. I have to stretch the hose quite far, but that's where my hose is right there. And it's attached to the secondary water, and let me show you where that attachment is. I've run a long hose all the way back here, and way back here. I don't want to go through there because there's hornets really close by. Back there you can see a hose bib that's attached to my secondary line. When I first had my irrigation put in, they put that in for me. Then the last thing I wanted to show you about my irrigation is we completely redid this box. We now have 2 drip lines, 2 sprinkler lines, and they're all brand new. It had broken and was not working at all, so I had them come dig this out and replace it, which makes it really nice. So that was a quick overview of what I've done with my irrigation system. I think it is pretty much done. I just need to bury the lines. I need to add the drip irrigation for my pots, which, my pots have really so far only needed to be watered about twice a week, and the drip line that I put in for the pots is going to go off 3 times a week. I figure once the citrus gets a little bit bigger, it might be using water more, and then that drip line will be a little bit better suited for it. But once I put it in, I put the shutoff valve on there on the drip line to the pots. So I'll just be able to turn that off in the middle of the week and only have them watered twice a week so that I don't overwater those. But anyway, I am very grateful that you came with me along this journey, and I hope you were able to understand drip irrigation a little bit better. And if you've enjoyed this video, I hope you like and subscribe, and go have a wonderful garden adventure.